Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name's Arcadian, the #1 dumpster tier gamer, and we are doing something a little bit different today. If you're not familiar with my channel, I typically do Skyrim, Starfield, a lot of Bethesda content, some League of Legends stuff. But today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm actually playing some PoE 2. Now, I've been playing this game since it released, almost a couple hours after it released. I mean, it's been, what, 3 weeks now? And I am really enjoying the game. Specifically, my main character is running what is called a Detonate Dead build. Now, I love this build, and I think this build has a lot of quality to it. Survivability is a big point, as well as being able to do enough damage to clear some major mobs. So what I'm doing right now is kind of an answer to some of my favorite streamers, or one streamer in particular, Ghazzy TV. Great streamer, love his content. As far as minion builds go, he is the priority numero uno in my opinion. However, I feel like he doesn't give this. He tried this build recently in a subathon. And I felt like he didn't give it a good shake. He decided from a very early stage of the build that he didn't enjoy it. He didn't think that the build cleared very well, and he was struggling. So I wanted to kind of make this video to show how a Detonate Dead build should function. Now, I'd like to point out that I am not the one who created this build. The first person that I saw do this build in PoE 2 goes by the name of Not Boring and Small. I highly recommend you check out his video. I'm going to leave it in the. I'm going to leave a link in the comments below, or in the description below. Another big streamer that is doing this build currently is DS Lily, and I think she has perfected it a little bit more than Not Boring and Small, or at least not that he's shown on any videos that I've been able to find. That being said, I feel like that I can give my take on how this build works. And what I feel, and by no means is this the end-all be-all. Like, I am a very low-budget player, so I don't think that I don't believe that I have the best of the best build here, and I want to make sure that I reiterate that. But I've done some tricks that's helped me to be able to get to where I am and be able to clear tier 15 maps really, really easily, and I want to show that off to you today. So with that being said, I'm going to start off by, we're going to create a tier 15 map, we're going to run the map, and then I'm going to show you the build. So let's start with the creating the tier 15 map. If I go in here, I've got a couple tier 15s, or at least I've got one tier 15 that we can use. It is unenchanted, so we're going to go ahead and boost this map up and try to juice it as best we can. So let's see here. That's all pretty good. We'll use a couple Exalteds on here, and then we'll Val Orbit. And actually, it's even better. We've got us a tier 16 map. So this is actually one of the highest rank or highest level maps that you can do currently. So what it has is Waystone drop chance 280%. 27% increased number of monster packs, 21 increased magic monsters, 19 increased number of rare monsters. Area has patches at chilled grounds, 73% more monster life, and players have 50% less cooldown recovery rate. So this is actually going to be kind of interesting to see how this one plays. I'm going to choose a decent map to put this on. I would like to put it on a boss map if I can. I don't know if I have access to any bosses. This one's irradiated and corrupted. That's a boss that we can't get to just yet. I don't think I have access to any boss maps. Let's look around here. Let's see. No bosses, no bosses. This might be pretty unfortunate for... Oh, here we go. Boss map. Here's an irradiated and boss map. So what that means is... So an irradiated map, the monsters on the map have a +1 to monster level. Now you would also want to have the corrupted here. Contains corruption, which may add additional modifiers to the area, and the area has additional +1 to monster level. So if you want to do the most powerful map that you can do, you want to do T16 with irradiation and corruption. Okay, that's going to give you the highest level of monsters that you could possibly fight in that map. However, we also want to showcase the bossing capability of this build. I don't know where that bossing map went. There it is. We also want to show the bossing capability as well as the clearing of this build. So I feel like the irradiated map boss is probably going to be better off at showing what we've got here. So we're going to go ahead and put that in here. That shows us a map boss. It's a seepage map, which is actually going to be pretty fun. The frost ground can provide some challenge, but we'll see how it all plays out. So let's start with going ahead and clearing. As you can see, like, I'm able to do enough damage. My explosions are wide enough. Now, this particular build, the survivability really does rely a lot on your crit chance. So for this build to really thrive and be able to survive the entire map, you need to be able to crit with your spells and be able to create those flutters that you see. One downside to this build is that it can you can end up expending your skeletons very quickly. So the goal is to get into bigger packs. Use your skeletons to explode once, killing things, and then you use their dead That was an elite, killed pretty easily. As you can see, my HP is sticking right around that 5,000 range. I'll show you how I'm able to get that all the way. But as you can see, like, it's not like super fast clearing, but it's super comfortable. I feel like he didn't get Detonate Dead a good enough shake on it. Like, and there's a few reasons why I think he was show those to you as we go through our build. We're clearing pretty easily, no big issues. You do kind of have the occasion when your minions try to run away and deal with minions that are far away from you. Still clearing relatively easily. Not used to trying to talk, so that makes things relatively interesting. Good thing is I mean, this build is doesn't take much. Like the big thing you gotta watch out for is it does not happen. Should be getting to the ball here. Okay, here's the ball. So this should be a good showing here. Amount of damage I do is pretty extensive. I'm not one-shotting him, but I'm also like not struggling at all.
About time.
That was a boss. I mean, this was a tier 16 map, monster level 81. The monsters are juiced. We're not having any problems whatsoever. out. Oh, we already did that. Okay. Technically, we could come down here, but I'm going to go this way. We're just looking for the rest of the elites here. So as far as speed goes, this build does kind of rely a lot on your minion speed as well as your movement speed. So it's not like, for example, like some of the monks out there that can flip around the map, or even the best witch build right now is taking advantage of the temporalis. This build does not have the ability to blink through the map and clear everything right away, but I feel like that the clear speed on this build is still relatively strong. The mapping capability, the damage that this build does is still relatively strong. And the big thing for me is not necessarily speed, but comfort. I feel like survivability-wise, I'm not going to struggle with just about anything. Now, maybe the pinnacle bosses might give me a little bit more of a challenge. But so far, I've not seen anything as of yet that's like, oh crap, I'm in so much trouble, I can't beat that. So as you can see, like, we've already cleared all the elites. We're clearing this very quickly, very comfortably. Never really getting all that close to dying. And that was one of the things that I was so confused at why he was dying so easily. And the reason is he was trying to play the build as more of a caster playstyle. Instead of the way that I feel like the build should be played, and how I've come around. Now, again, I think that my build is not anywhere near the best way to play this build. I feel like I'm going to probably defer to some of the better players out there. The people who created the build, for example, like Small, so much better at this than I could ever be. But like I said, I felt like as much as I appreciate Ghazzy TV and I enjoy his content, I think he is one of the better players out there, especially when it comes to minion builds. I just feel like he didn't give us a fair shake. So, we've completed the map. There's still 50 monsters left. We can go ahead and clear them out, or we can just go ahead and call it and go back to show you what the build is. So I am using a couple uniques for this build, and one of them is not super necessary, but I feel like provides a huge benefit. And then I would like to point out that the uniques that I use for this build are very, very inexpensive. So you can play this build very easily, very cheaply, and not have to spend a whole lot of resource on it. The most expensive items are going to be your scepter, and most likely either your amulet or your chest piece. So here's what we're running. The first unique that we're going to run is the Enizin's Charge. This one is really, really beneficial for you because of the fact of that bottom modifier there that says 25% chance not to destroy corpses when consuming corpses. Okay, so that means that our Detonate Dead, well, let's talk about what Detonate Dead does first. So Detonate Dead, it causes a corpse to violently explode, damaging surrounding enemies. Okay, so you consume a corpse to cause an explosion to deal damage to those that are around it. Ezinin's Charge makes it to where 25% of the time you are not going to consume that corpse. And so that therefore you can be able to cause subsequent explosions on the same body as long as you have that chance to not consume the corpse. We also help to boost that with other passive skill perks that help to create that to be an even larger sum. So this gives us 25%. The total percentage that we are getting to not consume a corpse is going to be right around 75%. So if you can see right here, where chance to not destroy the consumed corpses is 75%. So 3 out of 4 times we are not consuming a corpse. Now, this other unique that I am using is one that's not necessary. Let's talk about what's necessary to make the build work. So, Detonate Dead, obviously. Now, I recommend doing this at level 7, and here's the reason why. At level 7, a level 7 gem of Detonate Dead deals 34 to 51 fire damage, but deals physical damage equal to 20% of the corpse's maximum life. And that's where the damage of this build comes in. Because the higher the maximum life of the corpse that you're detonating, the more damage that this is going to do. That 20% is static. Now, the reason why I'm running such low-level Detonate Deads is because that 20% physical damage done based off of the corpse life does not scale up the higher the Detonate Dead. So even if I were to take this Detonate Dead all the way to 18, so I can show that to you here. Let's go to our gems. We've got a bunch of 18 gems here. Let's go to... Oh, that was a spirit. That doesn't do pretty good. Let's do a skill gem. Okay, Detonate Dead, right here. So at level 18, it deals 133 to 200 fire damage versus a level 7. But the deals physical damage equal to 20% of corpse life, maximum life, stays at that 20%. It does not scale up. So the reason why it's been more beneficial to run off of the level 7 Detonate Dead is because it keeps the cost of the skill low. And therefore, and you're still doing the 20% damage. As you can see here, at level 7, 31, 31, 45, 45. So I'm running 2 Detonate Deads, and I'll explain why we're doing that here in a moment. So level 7 Detonate Dead's your best option. The other thing that's necessary to make this build work is something that you don't get until level 58. And that is going to be this skill here called Sacrifice. So this skill called Sacrifice, it's from a level 16 gem. You can actually take that up to a level 18 if you want to. But it says, while active, your undead reviving minions can be used in place of corpses by your skills. But your minions revive more slowly. So what that means is that instead of having a corpse here, as you can see, I don't have any corpses, I can blow up one of my minions, and I have a 75% chance not to consume that minion that I blow up. Okay? So that there is where this build thrives and why this build thrives. Because the minions that we are using to make this work are these skeletal brutes here. These things are huge. So if you look at this build here, you can see under the under my main setup, my clearing setup, my brutes have 33,508 life. So, and they're dealing damage when I blow up my brute. It's dealing 20% of that life as physical damage. That's massive. Now, when I switch to my bossing setup, my minions jump up to 39,049 life, so they're dealing more damage. So that right there is the premise of the build, of how the build works. That is what allows the build to complete into the stage that it is now. Now, what I use to be able to do that, first of all, is an in-charge, and I use a double setup. I actually have, I'm using 2 different things. I'm using one for clearing and one for bossing. And I'll explain a little bit about that here in a second. But this right here is what gives me all of my or the majority of my survivability. And that is the At Ziri's Disdain Golden Circlet. The reason why this is so good is because you gain 28% of your maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So since this build is going to be stacking life, that just makes you ungodly tanky, because all of that extra life that you're getting is also going to help you stack your energy shield as well. For example, if I were to take this off, I drop down to 454 energy shield. With this on, I'm at 2509. So that's just a massive boost when it comes to our overall tankiness. Now, two skills that we run, or two things that we do, first of all, is we are a Blood Witch using the Sanguimancy and Life Remnants that you have to use. You basically have to have this. And what this gives us is a Sanguimancy skill. Now, the Sanguimancy skill is the Life Remnant skill, sorry. It says, drinks the blood of your enemies to restore your life. While active, enemies you kill have a chance to spawn a Life Remnant, and critically hitting a target spawns a Life Remnant every few seconds. Picking up a Life Remnant grants you life, which can overflow your maximum life. Okay, 1 second, let's go ahead and grab that. Okay, so what that means is that every time we critical hit, we have a chance of dropping those life orbs. When we collect those life orbs, we gain life back. Now, the reason why this is so important is because the Detonate Dead skill, or being a Blood Mage, means that when we attack with our skills, they gain a base life cost equal to their base mana cost. What that means is that when we use our skill, it uses the same amount of mana as it does life. So our Detonate Dead, every time we cast our Detonate Dead, it's costing us, our non-bossing Detonate Dead is 45 mana, 45 life. Our bossing Detonate Dead is 31 mana and 31 life. So if that makes sense. So when we use this skill, we use some of our life. As you can see, my life total is going down. It revives really quickly, and that's due to my gear. But if I was hitting creatures, those blood orbs that were seen during the play would be spawning down, and then I can collect those to gain that life back. But it also goes a step farther, as it has what's called an overheal effect. Which means that there's a 25% chance of spawning a Remnant on killing an enemy, spawning a Remnant on critically hitting a target no more than once every 2 seconds, and each Remnant grants 374 life. But if you look, it says picking up a Life Remnant grants you life which can overflow maximum life. Now, that overflow mechanic actually overflows that maximum life to double your total maximum life. So if you look here, I've got 2,562 maximum life. When this is overflowed, I actually have 3,100 maximum life. It's 3,124. 5,124. So 5,124 maximum life when I'm collecting those orbs. Now, that same thing also happens to be equivalent in my other passive skill that I'm running, which is Grim Feast. So it feeds on corpses to bolster your energy shield. While active, enemies and reviving minions that die in your presence have a chance to drop Grim Remnants. Picking up a Grim Remnant grants you an energy shield which can overflow your maximum energy shield. So not only am I getting, and it's a 50% chance to spawn a Remnant when an enemy or reviving minion dies in your presence. So 50% of the time when I kill a creature, or kill a monster, or one of my minions die, there is a 50% chance for a Grim Remnant to spawn. And when that happens, that causes, or when I collect those, that causes my energy shield to recharge, as well as to overflow and basically do the same thing that my life one does, my life remnant does. So 2,562 life, maximum is 5,124. 2,509 energy shield, my maximum energy shield is 5,018. So my effective health value is about 10,000 HP, which is where my survivability comes into play and where Ghazzy's having trouble, is because he's not focusing on the survivability aspect. So when he goes in to do battles with bosses, he doesn't have the critical hit chance to drop the orbs because he's choosing the Infernal Ascendancy instead of the Blood Witch Ascendancy. Now there's another reason to choose a Blood Witch Ascendancy beyond just the extra life, and that is going to be, first of all, the 1% increased critical damage bonus per 40 life. This build requires, for it to do the maximum highest tier damage, it requires a ton of critical hit chance. You've got to get that critical hit chance as high as you possibly can get it. So that's the reason why we're using Gore Spike, and then we're actually taking it a step farther, and we're also grabbing Sundered Flesh, which gives a base critical hit chance for spells as 50%. So where that synergizes with the build, that means that my Detonate Deads have a critical hit chance of 51.9%. 51.3 on my non-bossing, 51.9 on my bossing one. What that means is that 50% of the time I'm critically hitting my enemies. Of that 50% of the time of critical hitting, every 2 seconds of critical hits on a specific enemy is giving me a blood orb, which is giving me life. That critical hit damage is hitting for 316% on my bossing and 246% on my non-bossing. So my area clear, 246% critical damage on top of the 20% of, 246% additional damage of the 20% physical damage based off of life total. So you're talking expounding damage that goes just absolutely crazy, and which is why this build is so good at clearing. Now, where he was having trouble is, first of all, is his clearing build setup was not set up properly. Now, obviously, mine's not perfect. I've only got a 4 stack here. I don't have five supports that I can put on either of mine yet. But if you look here, for example, on this one right here, I'm using Magnified. This is my non-bossing one. I'm using Magnified Effect, Spell Echo, Corpse Conservation, and Ambush. Now, the Corpse Conservation means that supported skills that consume corpses, giving them a chance to take effect without destroying the corpse. That's where I get another of my 25% for my not consuming corpses. Very, very big. Excellent for my non-bossing situation because I'm able to just tap my corpses. There's a 75% chance not to consume a corpse. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going through. Everything else, this is supported skills has 100% more critical hit chance against enemies that are on full life. So I'm almost guaranteed to crit enemies that are at full life. And then the Spell Echo allows for the explosions to hit twice, which has, and then the Magnified Effect gives them a much wider AoE range. So that's what's going to help you do your clearing. It's going to be able to just clear and be able to hit the majority of the screen. As you can see, when I hit this, I hit a big, huge section of the screen. Everything around me dies. No big deal. Now, for my bossing setup, I do a little bit differently. I use Brutality, which supports any skill dealing damage, boosting its physical damage at the expense of all other damage types. So it takes away the fire damage of the Detonate Dead, which, to be honest, at level 7, there's not a whole lot. I'm losing 34 to 51 fire damage. But I'm gaining 35% more physical damage on top of the 20%. So it's 20% physical damage of the minions, and then 35% of that is added on. I'm also doing Heft, which supported skills have 30% more maximum physical damage, so again, another 30% on top of that. Concentrated Effects, supported skills have 40% more area damage, but 50% less area of effect, which means that my minions basically they explode for a smaller radius, as you can see, but they explode for more damage. And then considered casting supported skills have 15% less cast speed, and they deal 40% more damage with spell hits. So the bossing one is just scaling the physical damage, while the non-bossing one is scaling the area of effect. Now I'm running skeletal brutes. You only really need 3 to 4 skeletal brutes for this build to be working properly. I think the highest number I can hold right now is 4. I could technically go with another cleric. I have enough spirit for it. But the question is, when I switch, yeah, I still have it when I don't. So I actually could go another 2 skeletal clerics. And then run 3 clerics, 3 brutes. But I don't necessarily have to do that. Sacrifice, absolutely necessary. Soul offering, this boosts your damage when you're doing your bossing. I highly recommend running that. Vulnerability, curses, so on and so forth. I very rarely have to use those. Now let's look at the passive tree, because this is where things kind of get a little bit confusing. So, I'm doing things a little bit different than he is, and that's because I'm trying to scale different things. So first of all, minion damage, spell damage is probably going to be minimal, but the physical damage is what you want. Physical damage is key for this build, and you want to kind of scale as much physical damage as you possibly can. The other thing that you want to scale up here is also your maximum life of your minions. Now, I do not have these 2 nodes down here. I don't know if I'm going to end up eventually taking those nodes, but as of right now, I'm not worrying about them. But if you look up here, maximum life for minions, and then maximum life for minions, as well as minions revive 15% faster. This is how we are turning around the sacrifice mechanic. So the sacrifice makes it to where your minions respawn 35% slower. We're able to mitigate that by taking this node here as well as a couple nodes up here. Minions revive 5% faster. Eventually we're going to want to take this one where minions revive 5% faster. So that right there, that's 15, 20, and that'll be 25. Also, you could also come over here, and I believe it is one of these over here. Nope. Yeah, right here. Minions revive 25% faster. I could possibly make my way over to here and be able to grab that as well, and give myself my minions revive basically 15% faster than they normally would. Minusing the 50%, or gaining the 50% off of the passive skills, and then minusing the 35% from the sacrifice skill. I'm scaling a ton of energy shield through here. A lot of my energy shield is not necessarily, like, I've got a little bit on my gear. My gear is not perfect by any means. But a lot of it comes from my passive tree, and then also from my helmet. Up here we have maximum life scaling. We've got minions move speed scaling. Over here we have chance not to destroy corpses, so I've got 25% on my Ensign's charge. I've got 25% on my corpse conservation, and then up here I'm gaining another 15, 20, 25% chance not to do, so that's where my full 75% comes from. Down over here, these are all critical hits. So this is critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then critical hit chance. We're scaling a ton of different critical hit chances as we go through. Maximum energy shield, critical hit chance, critical hit chance. So that's a lot of our critical hit chances are coming through here. Over here is critical hit damage and critical hit chance. physical damage. That's why we've got these up here. So we've got physical damage here, we've got physical damage here, and physical damage here, as well as bleeding effects and so on and so forth. That's where we're scaling up the physical damage of the Detonate Dead, so that we're scaling up the higher the 20% as we go on higher and higher. Eventually I'm going to finish out this node here, taking all of the relevant passives here. We're going to come up here and we're going to grab these as well, where we break armor. We're going to grab this one right here, which causes armor break, and possibly grab these down here, critical damage and critical damage. So that's kind of where we're going. Now, if you look, some of these are green. These are under weapon set 2. So the ones that are green I have set for our weapon set 2. So this one here, minions revive 15% faster, and then you gain 2% life when one of your minions is revived. That's under my weapon set 2. This one here, minions revive 15% faster. These are under weapon set 2. This is the reason why under weapon set 2, my my life total goes higher, as well as my shield total goes higher. Over here, this is all weapon set 1. This is all spell skills, area of effect spell skills. So weapon set 1 is my clearing setup, whereas weapon set 2 is my damage setup. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense for everybody. I'm running a ton of minion life, a ton of different things, but I'm hoping that helps everybody to understand why this build, I feel, does a ton of damage and is able to clear so easily. I just think that it did not get a fair shake, and that being able to show this or showcase this, maybe I'm able to help people to understand where this build thrives and why I think this build is so strong. Like I said before, I don't think that, I don't disagree that there are some, my build is definitely not perfect. The rest of my gear is just kind of resistances, plus the spirit, plus the minion skills. This is probably going to be the most expensive piece of gear that you can get on the game, or on this build. It's 40% increased spirit, as well as +4 to all minion skills, as well as minions have 43% maximum life. If I were to attempt to sell this or buy this right now, I'd probably be looking at multiple divines for this piece. Okay, so my sidekick's not wanting to work right now, so that's fine. The last time I checked as an upgrade for this piece, it was like 7 divine, which is well more than I just could afford to put into it. So yeah, like I said, my gear is not perfect. I'm able to get myself up to max resistances on everything except for chaos. My max HP is humongous, my armor is fairly low, but my energy shield and my life is where my tankiness comes from. My mana being at 1103, I hardly ever use it. Like I go through, my mana just comes back so quickly. I don't ever have to worry about running out of mana. Where did I lose skeleton? There's skeletal. Where it's from. Ah, okay, so here we go. So this shows right here. So weapon set 2, I gain an extra 400 energy shield, but my life stays the same. But I also lose a bunch of spirit. So weapon set 1, I lose, or sorry, weapon set 2, I gain a bunch of spirit. So that just kind of show it's a very powerful build. It has a ton of clearing potential. I cleared through that level 15. I cleared the boss. Very little troubles at all. Hopefully this gives you, I know this wasn't a very streamlined video. It wasn't very, I didn't use like a script or anything like that. I just kind of showed the build, showcased what it can do. And I wanted to kind of make sure that everybody understands, like, you got to give the build a fair shot. and I think I did that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the content. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Again, please don't think anything bad on Ghazzy TV. Like, he's, as far as minion builds go, he is the best of the best, in my opinion. There's a couple other minion people out there that I think do an insanely good job, but I'm very confident he knows what he's talking about when it comes to minions. I just feel like he didn't give Detonate Dead a clear take, or a fair shot. And I wanted to kind of set the record straight. And hopefully, if he does see this video, thank you so much for your content. I do appreciate you. But please, give Detonate Dead another try. Check out some of the things that I do here. Obviously, you can streamline this a lot better, but I feel like you would have a lot more fun with this if you gave it a fair shot. So thanks again. Hope everybody has a great, wonderful weekend. Enjoy the beginning of the new year, and have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much.